New Jack City arrived in 1991 like a warning siren echoing through America. It wasn't just a crime film, it was a mirror reflecting power, greed, addiction, and survival. When the credits rolled, audiences thought the violence was over. It wasn't. For the cast, the aftermath stretched across decades, marked by broken careers, silent struggles, and lives lost too soon. Some faces you loved are gone forever. Others carry scars time never healed. In 2025, their stories feel heavier, sadder, and more real than ever. This isn't just about how they look now, it's about who survived, who faded away, and who never made it to today. Watch closely. Some legacies still hurt. Wesley Snipes stood at the center as Nino Brown, a character so magnetic he swallowed the screen whole. At just 29, Snipes didn't act like a villain, he became one. Born in Orlando, Florida, raised through hardship in the South Bronx, he sharpened himself through discipline and sheer force of will. New Jack City transformed him from rising talent into unavoidable power. Wesley Snipes rode that power straight into superstardom. Films like White Men Can't Jump, Demolition Man, and especially Blade made him the first modern black superhero icon. But with control came isolation. Stories of refusing to leave his trailer, communicating only through notes, and clashing with studios became legend. Then came tax convictions, prison time, and a career frozen mid-stride. Wesley Snipes resurfaced years later in Brooklyn's Finest and Dolomite Is My Name, proving the talent never left, but the damage was permanent. Now at 63, his legacy feels conflicted, brilliance shadowed by self-destruction. Ice-T entered New Jack City as Detective Scotty Appleton, bringing realism only lived experience could provide. Born Tracy Lauren Morrow in Newark, New Jersey, Ice-T didn't arrive seeking approval. His music, Rhyme Pays, Power, OG Original Gangster shook the industry and terrified politicians. Ice-T nearly lost everything after the cop killer controversy. Labels dropped him, careers closed overnight. Acting became survival, not ambition. After New Jack City, he pushed through Trespass and Surviving the Game, often clashing on set over authenticity. Ice-T finally found stability in Law & Order SVU as Odafin Tutuola, but fame strained relationships and emotional trust. Now 67, his success reflects reinvention, not comfort. Mario Van Peebles carried both authority and pressure as Detective Stone. Born in Mexico City, carrying a legendary surname, expectations were crushing. He refused to soften his stories, fighting studios that wanted silence instead of truth. Mario Van Peebles paid the price. Films like Posse and Panther were criticized, underfunded, and boxed in. His marriage collapsed under obsession and distance. Depression followed. He retreated to Costa Rica, searching for mental stability away from the industry that exhausted him. Mario Van Peebles now works quietly as a director and mentor. At 68, his career survives, but never safely. Judd Nelson entered New Jack City as Detective Nick Peretti, carrying a volatility that felt unsettling because it was real. Once hailed as the voice of a generation in The Breakfast Club, fame slowly turned corrosive. Expectations became pressure. Pressure became rebellion. Substance abuse and erratic behavior followed, burning bridges with directors who once competed to hire him. The intensity that made Nelson unforgettable on screen began working against him behind the scenes. Offers faded, relationships collapsed, and depression deepened until hospitalizations became necessary. Now 66, Nelson works only on his own terms, far removed from the fame that once defined him. His legacy stands as a reminder of how quickly admiration can turn into abandonment. Chris Rock delivered one of the most painful performances in New Jack City as Pookie, exposing addiction without dignity or escape. At just 26, Rock didn't perform humiliation, he lived it. After being marginalized by Saturday Night Live, he rebuilt himself through comedy. Bring the Pain reignited his career, while Bigger and Blacker made him one of America's sharpest voices. Yet Hollywood boxed him in, limiting his intelligence to comedy alone. Success came with a cost: addiction, infidelity, divorce, therapy, and public humiliation at the 2022 Oscars. Now 60, Rock's influence masks decades of survival.
Nick Ashford brought weary authority as Reverend Oates, a presence shaped by lived experience rather than performance. Behind the scenes, his life was marked by contradiction. As one half of Ashford and Simpson, he helped define modern soul and pop, yet exploitation followed success closely. Addiction crept in, nearly ending everything. Rehabilitation saved his life, but the damage lingered. Throat cancer eventually stole his voice, the very instrument that made him immortal. Nick Ashford died in 2011, but his music continued to echo through films like The Bodyguard, reminding audiences that art can outlive the artist. John Ara portrayed Don Armateo with a calm menace that felt lived in rather than performed. His early prestige in The Godfather Part 2 should have secured his future, but Hollywood offers no guarantees. Conflict followed him from set to set, slowly narrowing opportunity. 3 divorces fractured his private life, and regret became a constant companion, especially the decision to turn down The Sopranos, a choice he later admitted haunted him. When John Ara died in 2024, his career stood as a reminder that steady work is not the same as security, and respect does not always bring peace. Jake LaMotta didn't act violence, he carried it. A former boxing champion, his appearance in New Jack City felt like a ghost walking through the frame. Mob ties, admitted abuse, broken marriages, and relentless loss had already shattered his life. Dementia later erased memory, but left rage intact, trapping him inside his own legend. When Jake LaMotta died in 2017, he was remembered not only for glory, but for the destruction left behind by a life that never learned restraint. Bill Nunn embodied fear without words as Da-Da Man, a presence that didn't need explanation. After becoming an icon in Do the Right Thing, pressure followed him quietly. Expectations grew heavier, while recognition stayed just out of reach. Depression and alcohol crept in, unseen by audiences who only noticed his strength on screen. Leukemia ended his life in 2016, closing a career built on intensity, loyalty, and unspoken pain. Vanessa Estelle Williams portrayed Kesha, a woman surviving inside a world that punished vulnerability. Off-screen, confusion with another actress sharing her name stalled momentum just as it should have exploded. Trauma accumulated quietly. PTSD and depression pushed her away from Hollywood's noise, forcing her to choose survival over visibility. When she returned through television and advocacy, it wasn't as a comeback, it was as proof that endurance can be its own form of victory. Michael Michel brought fragile humanity to Selena, a character defined by fear and loyalty. Success should have opened doors, but industry blacklisting and instability followed instead. Roles came without permanence. She endured through television, choosing selective work over constant rejection, building a career not from spotlight, but from persistence. Russell Wong refused stereotypes that promised visibility at the cost of dignity. That refusal closed doors quietly. Roles disappeared without explanation. Teaching, privacy, and distance replaced disappointment as he chose peace over compromise. Alan Payne gave tragic depth to G Money, a character doomed by hunger for respect. Early promise faded, not from lack of talent, but from lack of trust. Stability arrived later through television, where his story became one of endurance, not fame, but survival. Michael Christopher Williams entered as a rising music star, but fame faded faster than anyone expected. Kidney failure nearly took his life, stripping everything away until survival itself became his greatest comeback. New Jack City didn't just tell a story, it left scars that never healed. Some lives were lost, others were forever changed. Which journey shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. If these stories moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood truths that deserve to be remembered. Thanks for watching.